Hello, and welcome back to the Enchanted Self Returns. We've been waiting with a lot of eagerness and some degree of aggravations in our lives to get back to you. And when I say we, I mean me, Dr. Barbara Becker Holstein, and I also mean Jean Sherman, who is helping me in this conquest to return the enchanted selves to all of us women right now. That's our focus. And it's going to be a lot of fun. We even have a title aside from the enchanted self for tonight's program. And Jean came up with a title. Maybe you want to say hello and tell them what the title is, Jean, or I can do it.
Oh, that's fine. Actually, my last name is Schulman.
Okay, well,
It's
good.
okay. It's my married name. Sorry.
Okay,
JeanMarie Schulman, and we came up with It's Fair to Dream.
yes, it is. We're entitled to dream. We should dream for lots of aspects of our lives, on and off. And we should feel free to dream also. So it has a lot of little um, extra effects attached to it. So first, let's go back a little bit to what is the enchanted self? The enchanted self comes partly from your own girlhood, your childhood, in that when we're children, and we're talking now about girls, of course, boys go through similar, slightly different things, but we're focusing on girls. Girls have an extremely high ability that are things that are just amazing. For example, in the old days, if a family had many, many children, the girls could usually practically take over being the mother of a child when that kid may have been only 6 or 7. Also, girls have been able to take over family life in despairing moments and so on. And that's because they're quick-witted, they figure things out, they can make many adjustments. And this is part of the creative part of us that is inside of us forever. It's just part of us. And so as girls grow up, they have to find a way to hold on to their own brilliance. I'll put it that way. The brilliance, the sparks of brilliance that are within them. Sometimes it's not possible to keep those sparks because of despairing things that happen. And of course, neither you nor I could control all the things that may happen to certain people. So we can't guarantee what we end up with. But I can say that for most women, this enchanted self part is alive and well. It may not recognize itself, but it's alive and well. And our jobs is as grown-up women is to help it get even stronger. So tonight we are going to talk about getting your enchanted self stronger, and that can often mean what you learn about yourself. So I don't want to complicate things with too many lessons, but I would suggest that you take some time to figure out something in your past that really, really worked for you and excited you. It could be a summer job, it could be visiting a grandparent, it could be an opportunity to travel. And on your own, not with me, but on your own, start to play with those memories and bring them to life again. Sometimes I do that as I'm driving in the car. I think about something wonderful that happened a number of years ago, and I just feel good. It's nice to bring that memory back. But it's more than nice because it can have attached to it energy. And maybe energy to call a certain person up, energy to plan a vacation, energy to tell somebody important in your life something that maybe, I don't know, what's coming to me is maybe sometimes if you're married or with a spouse, telling them, please don't do that. I don't like that. Please stop, whatever it is. It could be as small as making a rocking chair noise when you're sitting on the porch. But that's part of the enchanted self. Part of that is recognizing that we're not only free to dream, but we're free to ask corrections of other people. So it's very complicated. I want to let Jean get in and just, we don't do a formal sort of showing of what we're going to say. It's sort of informal. So, Jean, I don't know if you want to offset some of what I'm saying or bring up an example or just go to something else on your mind. It's free play. We're like kids. We're in the sandbox. I can play, you can play. We may play the same, we may not.
Okay. Well, I was just thinking about what you said in the beginning when you were talking about how as women we're kind of raised to like take on roles that maybe we're too young for. We take care of the household and things like that. And that resonates with me because as I was growing up, like I had to always be the caretaker and I took care of my brother. And as I got older, I had to take care of my mother as well in various ways. But thankfully, she raised me pretty independent. And so I was able to take on those things. Now, how that affected me in the long run, there's many ways that it has, I guess, but I do often feel this like guilt and this responsibility to take care of everyone automatically because that's how I was brought up. Um, so in that, when you were talking about that and how as girls we kind of like, just have to put on these roles. That's exactly like what I resonated with. So my brother used to call me mom sometimes because my mom would work all day. And so I had to really take care of him and myself.
Yeah, yeah, well, that's what you had facing you. For me, I was alone. I was an only child. My parents worked very hard. They were out of the house a great deal of the time. And I had the opposite where I had to fill lonely time and take care of my own needs and sometimes make up stuff. Like sometimes I imagine that I had more family or some people to be with, and I would usually solve that by going to the library constantly and getting mystery books and different books, Little Women, stuff like that, that good stories. And sometimes imagining if I could have been brought up in a different family. And I'm not saying it was perfect. It was far from perfect. But the fact that I was not inhibited from developing my interests and my talents, I have to be thankful to my parents because that gave me a good head start on being able to ask for what I need, find what I need, and recover when disappointments happen. And that's another major, major concept around the enchanted self, that no matter how we grow up as women, I'm going to assume, though, that we grow up fairly well, fairly safely, taken care of, getting some reasonable schooling and parents that care, or if not parents, grandparents, uncles and aunts, friends, that still we will suffer at some point, whether it's personal illness or someone passes away or trauma in some way. And what really gets us back eventually, of course, is the hope and support and friendship and loving of people in our lives. But it's that little girl, that energetic little girl who knew how to do things at 6 or 8 or 10, who gets back up on her horse and recovers from whatever insult or disappointment we've had, and we are ready to go again. And this is a marvelous part of being a girl and then a woman. I don't think it's talked about enough or understood, but it's there for most of us. And if we just begin to recognize if there are people that have to get out of our way or behave better, get them shaped up. We have this energy that can come back when we need it. You know, I once wrote a little story that is up on the web somewhere about would you invite ants to your picnic? I'm talking about the little ants that come out as soon as they smell that delicious chicken that you have in the basket. And of course, most of us would answer, no, get rid of those ants. Well, we all have friends and relatives and opportunities with bosses and stuff that don't always go well. And it's like having the ants at a picnic. And so one of the maturing things we have to do as grown-ups, and again, this taps into the enchanted self, is learning how to say no, or maybe, or I'll think about it, or yes, if you will do X or Y. Otherwise, no. So I see that I'm really bringing up more than one aspect, and I don't want to flood our listeners. And by the way, we should mention that we're having fun, that Jean and I, like, we're not wearing exactly regular clothes that are worn in our communities in today's world. I think both of us instinctively are wearing a little bit of clothing from the past because we're also involved in other aspects of our lives, some of which we're sharing together. And one of them is that we're working on a film that will take place in 1960 about two girls that are in college together. I've written the book that isn't published yet, and Jean is going to be extremely helpful as one of my producers in producing this. And it's such a treat. So we're going to have to, for months and months, sort of get into the feelings of the old days, so to speak, and in particular from 1960 to 1970. I'm sorry, yeah, 1960 to 1970, depending how long how long we're making these films, which I don't know at this point. So I have these wonderful green beads that somebody gave me, I don't know who, and the hat that it's not exactly, it's more from 1929, but it certainly isn't every day here. And I also found this necklace in my drawer, which I must have bought on the run. I don't know when or where, but here it is. And so this is all about free to dream. I'm dreaming about this film that I think will be interesting and fascinating and speak to women about some of the deep feelings that we have as women and how they come about in earlier times and now. And so I'm free to dream. And this is what I wore today. Again, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. I wasn't as prepared as you. I don't have a lot of those kind of items, but I just threw on like my little handkerchief here, bandana, whatever you want to call it, and a little boho beaded top. Um, I didn't have as much time to prepare. However, I felt like this was like the vibe I was going for with some beads and like chill, hair down, just like I'm hanging out. I'm just
Yeah,
relaxed.
that's good. We're hanging
Uh,
out. So we had agreed that we would end today with each telling a little happy story from our past. You know, whether it's a year ago or 40 years ago or whatever. So I will, again, I'll start first and you'll get to finish the hour.
do it.
I'm going to talk about when my parents took me, and usually my one of my grandmothers and one of my aunts, and we went to Savern Rock, which was a public beach with rides outside of New Haven. And we were living in New Haven and then Bridgeport, Connecticut. And my aunt and aunts or whoever was with my mother, they would sit on a bench, and what they liked to do was people watch. So really, that was all they needed. They could spend an hour and a half watching the crowds go by, so to speak. And maybe they got an ice cream cone or something, but they were so happy watching and talking and comparing themselves to strangers and so on. And meanwhile, my father would take me to the fun house, which was a little scary, but I felt safe because I was with him with all the mirrors that distorted you and so on. And then in the end, you sat on this great big circle of wood that moved around and got faster and faster. And the whole idea was you slid off and then you went down in chairs to get out of the building. And I loved it. And I wasn't afraid at all because, again, my father was with me. I was content. I was safe. And I had him to myself. And we went out for hot dogs and French fries later, and they were delicious. So this was one of those wonderful, happy memories that I can bring back again and again and again. Yes, the sad part is that, of course, they're not here. But as I said, it's a two-way street. And it's better that I had this memory and I had this time. I'm happy for it. And it's helped me many, many times to remember my parents. Yes, of course. And my relatives. And anyway, I hope you enjoyed what I shared. And now I'm going to switch it to Jean to tell her story.
Okay. First of all, I have to say I hate fun houses. They creep me out. Like I cannot, I don't know what it is. I'm like claustrophobic in them. So anytime we're at the boardwalk, my kids want to go in and I'm like, yeah, you're on your own. I can't go in that thing. I'll freak out. But my happy memories is similar to where you had went. But when I was younger, my grandparents had a beach house, or we always like had something to go to in the summer down in Seaside or Ortley Beach in New Jersey. And we just would have so much fun. It would be like all my aunts and uncles and everybody would be together, and they would go fishing, and they would often play jokes on my grandmother. Like one time they let like crabs loose in the kitchen and she was trying to cook and all the crabs are coming around pinching everything, and they thought that was hilarious. And another time they caught a giant eel. Same thing, they let it out, swerving around the kitchen floor. My grandmother's freaking out and screaming, like she has no idea what's going on. And we're just all sitting back laughing. So I have like a lot of fun memories from being with like my uncles, my aunts, and my brother was there, and we would go to the boardwalk. My grandmother knew everybody, and we would often like we just play games and walk around. And that was one of my favorite places to be every summer, was just with my family, basically. And being able to just like go on rides and have fun and eat good food. And I would stay up late and play Pokino with my grandma. She would teach me how to, she kind of taught me how to gamble a little early. She was a big gambler. um, but and then actually one time I was left there. I was left on the boardwalk by myself. I think I was like 10. And like it was a big group of us and we're just, everybody was like, oh, I think we're leaving. And I'm in the arcade. And I guess I was stubborn and thinking like, yeah, I'm doing one more game. Next thing I know, there's nowhere to be found. And I guess like at that moment, I had to figure out what to do. And I stayed calm and I was like, okay, like what do you learn on Sesame Street? Or what does your mom teach you? What do you do in this situation? And I went right up to the front desk there. And I said, I think my family left me. I'm going to say it was an accident because we were a big group, but I'm pretty sure they left me here. And so they like called the police, whatever. And I was trying to describe, like, I had to go by visual memory, step by step on how to get back to my house because the policeman was going to like drive me. Thankfully, they pulled up at the same time that we were just about to leave. And it was like, oh my God, big hugs. And I was just laughing. I'm like, you totally meant to do that. Like I was just, joking with them. You guys left me. But I understood it was a big group. But yeah, we just had like good times. And I'll always love the Jersey Shore. And that's like my happy place. And now I live down here. So it's perfect.
Yeah. Well, I enjoyed my story and I even enjoyed more your story. It was very, very, very nice and scary, but a happy ending, of course.
Thankfully.
So, um, we hope you enjoy the Enchanted Self returning tonight and you got a little bit of wisdom and ideas for yourself to think about. You can always come to the Enchanted Self website and there's lots of suggestions and stories and films and books to buy and all sorts of things. And we will definitely be back. We're planning on some interesting guests aside from ourselves. Of
We're
course,
pretty,
we're interesting and
we're,
free to dream, as I'm suggesting to all of you, but we will have companions on the show on and off who are wonderful women, and at times maybe even men will be invited. So remember to try to remember that spark inside yourself and please feel free to dream. Good night for now.
good night.